Welcome to the Dealmaker Catalyst podcast, and I'm your host, Jason Seward, and today we've got someone that most of y'all know and love, Mr. Chuck Glover. How you doing, Chuck?
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here, man. So we'll start with a brief intro. Like I said, everybody knows who Chuck Glover is if you've been attached to the Dealmaker brand, but hopefully we're building some audience out there that doesn't know what Dealmaker or who Chuck Glover is, and so we'll get y'all exposed to that today. But Chuck Glover is a private money lender, author, coach, and architect of the massive achievement philosophy. After beginning his wealth building journey later than most, he refused to let age, limited capital, or conventional thinking define his ceiling. Instead, he built a disciplined formula for massive achievement around leverage of money, resources, applied knowledge, time, and talent, and turned modest beginnings into expanding influence. Chuck is the author of the $5,000 Millionaire and an upcoming book, Access Beats Effort, books that challenge readers to rethink effort, ownership, and possibility. Through classes, meetups, cruises, and mentoring, he equips others to replace isolation with collaboration. Chuck invests deeply in people, whether guiding new investors, building community, or serving abroad through wheelchair distributions. He measures success not only by wealth created, but by lives elevated. His life stands as evidence that disciplined leverage, aligned relationships, and faith in God produce results that far exceed solitary effort. Chuck?
Wow.
It doesn't get any better than that, my man.
I don't know. I could have wrote it any better than that myself. I'll try it.
Welcome to the show. We're excited to have you here, Chuck. And like I kind of led off with, those that have been connected for any amount of time to Dealmaker certainly know who you are. I've been impacted by you in many ways already, and most recently at our March Richmond event there that Jim Ingersoll put on. Your presentation, I happened to be standing beside your son, Stephen, when you gave it. And and as you kind of got towards the end and you shared a real impactful video with everybody, I saw his emotion well up, my emotions well up, and I'm standing in the back of the room with 300 people trying to hide all the tears coming down my face. But
me too. I was too.
It was powerful, man, and it was so authentic. It was so genuine. And I just, that's the value you bring to rooms like that, and everybody you continue to impact. And I just want to personally thank you for that.
Well, thanks, Jason. It's all based on the fact that I've quit too many things too often in life. It was finally time in my old age to stop quitting.
Yep. I love that, and I love your story. And what I'm going to do, because I've had several guests on here that have also been on my Burning the Ships podcast, and this episode is going to be a little bit different than that. So I want to encourage people that maybe do not know the depth of your story to go back and listen to that podcast on a different time. But this one, we're really going to dive into something very real estate investor focused that really is, what you are in the weeds on with your career at this point. And that is wrap lending and everything around building wealth, really using other people's money, resources, but your applied knowledge and how you've done that. So we're going to dive into that today, Chuck. And I think it's going to really, because a lot of people hear it, myself included, they hear the term wrap lending or all these other buzzwords that are tossed around, and partly because maybe you don't want to sound like you don't know what it is, partly because it just seems too intimidating to get involved with, but people don't ask questions. What is that? Explain it to me. So we're going to force people to get that knowledge today through your teaching. So we'll start off at its most basic form, Chuck. What is wrap lending?
Well, a couple of things, a couple of types of wrap lending. One type of wrap lending has been around they've both been around for a long time, but one is like owner financing, where someone wants to sell a house. There's an existing mortgage on the house, and they sort of extend an opportunity for an investor to buy that property, and they take out a new mortgage, so to speak, with that new investor. So the owner of the house, who was also selling it, is receiving the monthly payments from the investor as well as making payments on the original mortgage. So that's one type of wrap lending. It's not what I do. It's not at all. What I do is someone wants to buy a house, an investor wants to buy a house, and I create the loan for that house. Now, I don't have all the money. I have a small bit of the money, and one thing I've never wanted to do from day one is say, sorry, I can't help you. I don't have enough money, because there you go. They're not going to come back to you. So I found a way the Dorsey Ford actually taught me. She's an investor in Atlanta, Georgia, just about 6 years ago, that I can ask someone else to come into the loan with me and bring a big portion of the cash. So we have these two buckets of cash that we create into one loan to this borrower. So it's not an existing mortgage. It's paying off, if there is an existing mortgage, paying it off so that we have the mortgage is our mortgage. So basically, in a real nutshell, it's just creating loans to purchase a property and paying off the existing mortgage, and we're the ones in the deal.
Right. And the whole wrap piece of it is you're wrapping two lumps of money together essentially to create one lump of money to fund this particular deal, whether it's a purchase or a refinance, correct?
Well, where the term wrap comes from is, let's say that I put in $20,000. Let's say the loan is for $200,000 and I put in $20,000. Someone else comes into the deal with me and they bring $180,000. Okay, so I'm going to pay out to this. Now, I'm just talking off the top of my head. These aren't numbers that I normally use for every loan. Every loan's different. But let's say in this situation, the person that brings in the $180,000, I'm paying them 9% interest. Now, they're not real estate investors. It could be my next door neighbor, a family member, a guy in a Rotary Club, at church, whoever. And they don't know real estate. They don't really want to know real estate, but they love to make 9% on their cash when they're making 2% or 3% in a CD or something like that, triple their money. And it's a short term. All my loans are short-term loans. So I'm talking 6, 7, 8, 9 months. So they're in. They're excited. I'll put in my $20,000. Now I'm going to loan that $200,000 lump of money to the borrower at, let's say, 13%. So there's a 4% difference. I am getting 13% on the $200,000. I'm paying out 9% on the $180,000. So that's where the term wrap comes in. I've sort of wrapped my money around theirs, in that sense that their money is sort of in the deal and mine's kind of around it. That's not a great explanation, but that's where the term comes from.
No, it's a great explanation, and I
their
think
money comes out of my money.
Correct, and I think a key point before we get into the mechanics of this, like somebody hearing this not familiar with it would be maybe thinking, well, why, if they're putting up 200 and Chuck's putting up 20, or they're putting up 180, Chuck's putting up 20, why are they only getting 9 and Chuck's able to get a delta above that with he's only bringing such a small amount, 10% of the funds? Well, the answer to why is, you just answered it. These people are not real estate investors. They're not savvy when it comes to creating debt and managing and servicing that debt and underwriting the risk and things like that. So their participation in the deal is strictly investing capital to get essentially a passive return, because their involvement is putting up the capital. Your participation in the deal might be a small fraction of the total capital, but this is your job to manage this loan. So you have to underwrite it, you have to originate it, you have to service it, do all the draws, all of that. And for that value that you bring to the deal and generating a total of 13%, you earn that delta on the money, and then points and fees and stuff like that. So that structure that's why it makes sense. That's why it's fair to all parties. Anything you want to add to that structure and that piece of kind of the compensation piece of it?
Yeah, the people who are putting in the $180,000, they have the money there that's making 1% at the bank or something. They are tickled to death to get 9%. They love it. In fact, I call them underlying lenders. It's the term that I use. The other person bringing in the money, I'm the wrap lender. I'm the one that finds the deal, vets the deal, then puts all the legal parts together and the agreements together to make sure everybody knows what's going on. Totally transparent. Everybody involved in the deal knows who else is involved in the deal, how they're involved in the deal, how much they're involved in the deal, what everybody's making. Everybody knows that. I don't have to go to bed at night thinking, I hope somebody doesn't find something out to lay awake. But I'm the one that does all that work. And as you already said, I monitor the loan throughout its life, make sure it's paid off okay. So I'm the one doing the work. The other person goes to the beach and sits in the sun if they want to, or travels the world, or whatever they want, and they just get that monthly check coming in, and that's why they love it. So just in essence, that's kind of the reason that they're excited to get into the deal. In fact, most all of them, once the deal pays off in a few months, they get that extra income, so to speak. They say, look, when you get another deal, let me know. I'm ready to put it back to work. So I'm at the point now, after 6 years, that people are kind of reinvesting in the deals. So it's kind of built and developed to that point.
Yep, very good. So we're going to get into the mechanics of it all, but before we go there, I think it's very important to highlight or kind of preface everything with, this is not something you just jump into and start doing because maybe you flipped a few houses and you got a little extra cash and you want to start wrap lending. This is something that before you take investor capital and before you are trusted to fund a loan to a borrower, there's an education component here where through resources like, you teach this stuff. So resources like Chuck offers, there's plenty of resources out there, mentors, stuff like that, but you cannot just do this blindly. That's an irresponsible way to approach it. So Chuck, before we get into the mechanics, can you elaborate on that point a little bit, how important it is to become an expert in this space or surround yourself with experts through mentorships or coaches to guide you through operating this way?
And here's the point where a lot of people fall short or fall by the wayside, because it takes work. It takes effort. It doesn't just happen automatically. It's like you put in the grind. I go to these real estate meetups. I go to bunches. I've spent thousands of hours in real estate meetups, driving to and from, traveling in other parts of the country to real estate conferences and talking to people, meeting people, talking to other lenders. And so I started off by learning about and getting to know Dorsey Cooney. She's the one that taught me about this whole notion of the mechanics of wrap lending. And it blew my mind, because I thought I wanted to do real estate investment. I have no prior knowledge of real estate investment, by the way. I have never been a realtor or an investor or anything else. I was totally just off the boat, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to be fortunately blessed by God's guidance to meet her, and she taught me about this, and then I studied it. I got back in touch with it. Well, what about this and what about that as I come into questions? I met lenders here in Richmond at the real estate meetups. I took them out to lunch, and I bought them a lunch. And Fred and Marie Krause, him and his wife, they've been lenders for years. If he knows this stuff upside down, backwards, and so on, kind of like you. All that you know about lending, it blows me away. But I took him out to lunch, and he spent like 2 hours over a price of a barbecue, just pouring into me about. Now, that was lending in general, just about lending and the legal paperwork and all the questions to ask and how to vet deals. And then, of course, Dorsey had the specificity of how to do a wrap loan. But it isn't something that just happens. There weren't any books. Dorothy has a book out, a notebook kind of a thing, and I got that. But that's all I could find. There were some videos on YouTube halfway done and so on that really weren't the full picture. So I just kind of had to put it together as I go. But the good news is it's now together.
We'll just say it.
Which is why I wrote the book, because there was nothing out there. People were asking me, how do you do it? How do you do it? And I said, well, it's more than just a few minutes of conversation. It takes some time to study this thing. And there was nothing out there to fill that gap. So that's why I wrote the book and started teaching the class, the 2-hour Zoom class on the basics of wrap lending.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it started and where it's gone since then. So resources are now out there, but you got to tap into them. You got to study. You got to do the homework. And that's where a lot of people, wow, this is a lot to this. This is effort. I have to put forth effort. And that's where they fall. The knowledge applied. You have my knowledge, and you can learn it and apply it. That's one of the pieces of that massive achievement.
And what we're going to do next is, this is in no way, you're not going to listen to this. If you've never heard these concepts and this idea of wrap lending, or like we keep saying, the mechanics of it, if you've never heard any of that, you're not going to listen to this podcast and walk away ready to make a loan tomorrow. What you're going to get is a framework, kind of a high level framework of how it works from A to Z. And then your next step from there, if this is all new to you, that should kind of educate you on, okay, I can see the vision of where this works. We're not going to go into what loan docs to use. We're not going to go into underwriting and stuff like that. That's where the book comes into play. That's where Chuck's course comes into play, or any other resources you find like that. I highly recommend Chuck, because he's the man with the plan here. But so this is the point of the podcast where I'm going to encourage all of you to, if you're driving, if you're doing something else, just stop, get a notepad out, get a pen out, and Chuck's going to walk us through, like, basically. And Chuck, I kind of want to set the framework of, let's assume somebody's starting out with 20 grand in cash, or in your case, like your book, 5 grand in cash. You pick the number, and then how that can compound with this model over a course of a time.
There's nothing magic about $5,000. That's just a personal thing. But whatever the small amount of money that you have available. The idea is, first of all, starting off, meet people, because you're going to need sources of deals. Real estate investors coming to you asking for loans, and that's where you go to the real estate meetups and conferences and so on. You're going to need people who want to invest with you, who are not real estate investors. They are professional people. They could be your neighbors, family members. They sometimes professional people in your area, business owners in your area, people you associate with here and there, who would seem like, yeah, I might be interested in looking into that with you. So you kind of, just give them a blurb of what it is. I'm an investor, and I lend money to real estate investors, and the deals are going great. Think business is good, and once in a while I'll bring somebody into a deal with me. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in? And most everybody says, yeah, I want to learn more. But anyway, you set that up first. You set the framework up first. So you have a source for the deals. You have some people who are interested in investing with you. It could be one other person, 2 or 3 other people, whatever. And then once you get receive an application for a loan, and I put together a little simple application, because I need certain information to help me to vet the deal, or to figure out if it's a good deal, to run the numbers, as we say. So I get the loan application back. I just one I made up on my own, nothing fancy. And then if it looks like this is a good deal, there's plenty of equity there, the money that they want, and I go walk the property. I loan locally. I have lent further away, but now I loan locally so I can go see the property and walk it with the borrower just to check it out for myself. And if I have any questions, get somebody else to check it out. So you put that stuff together. Then if you're ready to make the loan, I have a little agreement form. It's not like a legal 10-page contract. It's like 1.5 pages. And it said, here's what the property is and the borrower is, and this is where I'm willing to loan on it at these terms and conditions. And it's very simple. And I get the borrower to review it. And if it looks good to them, they sign off on it, send it back. And then I have another one I send to the underlying lender, the person coming into the loan with me, just a little short 1.5-page form. It says, here are the details of the deal, and this is what you would be receiving from the deal. This is how much you would have in it. This is what I'd have in it. These are what you'd be receiving, monthly interest payments and so on. And if it looks good to them, they sign off on it. Now, once I get that, everybody's in agreement, and it's in writing. Then that's when the legal stuff comes in, and that's what the lawyers do. I don't do my own legal paperwork. I send the agreements to the lawyers, and I have another little information sheet I send to the lawyers spelling out the details so the lawyers can get it all right in the legal documents. But basically, once you have everybody kind of in agreement, that's kind of how putting the deal together works. Now, as you look at the numbers, now I'm no mathematician, so I don't know all the numbers right off the top of my head, but let's go with the example I used a moment ago. I have in 20,000, somebody else has in 180,000. I'm going to make sure I have a little Excel spreadsheet calculator thing that I just made up, so I can plug the numbers into that, and it shows me who's going to make what and everything that I need to know. Since I'm not a mathematician, I love Excel. And then so I make sure my numbers are right and accurate and double check them. And the way it works is I put in the whole loan amount, $200,000. And then in my little Excel sheet, it has the total that the borrower will be paying, the interest rates, the points, the time frame, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever. It's all in this column. And so I know exactly what the total amount the borrower is going to be paying total, broken down, of course, month to month. Then I have another column with the underlying lender. I put in their amount that they're lending, in this case, $180,000 at 9%. And then it spells out now I keep the points because I'm the one putting the loan together. I'm the one bringing the opportunity to them, putting the loan together, doing all the work. So I get the points, but it spells out their percentage that they're going to receive. Let's say at 9%. Now, whatever that amount is, they're going to get that much in monthly interest-only payments. Now, over here in the column where it shows what the borrower is paying, that's what the borrower is going to be paying me each month, which is going to be more, of course, because I'm keeping the difference. But from that money the borrower is paying, then I pay out to the underlying lender to make sure that they get their payment. A couple of reasons for that. The underlying lender is in first lien position. So if something goes sideways on a deal, they have first priority in getting their money back. I'm in second lien position, which means if there's anything left over, I get it. If not, at least they're taken care of. But that's sort of how the lay of the land, I guess, so to speak. So I'm going to send them the monthly payments to make sure they stay whole, to make sure, because if I tell the borrower to pay me so much and then send another check to the underlying lender, I don't know if that's happened or not, unless the underlying lender tells me I got paid. So if I just do it, I know they're getting their money, regardless of whether I get paid or not.
Right.
I know that's where the ethics of this thing come in, but not to go down that rabbit hole.
Yep.
But
So
their money.
So I'm gonna pause you for a second because I'm doing the math as you're saying it because I want to make sure those that are listening are tracking with where you're at. So using this loan, it's a $200,000 loan. Let's say you charge 2 points. So on $200,000 at closing, assuming you're collecting the points at closing, you're receiving $4,000 that's going to Chuck.
Correct.
Then the monthly payment at 13% on the whole $200,000 is $2,166 a month.
Okay.
He's paying 9% on 180 to the investor. So they're getting $1,350 a month, and Chuck is getting the delta of between 2166 and 1350, which is roughly $950 a month.
Now let's say that the loan is 6 months long. So that 800 times 6 is going to be what, 4,200?
Yep.
So that means the $4,000 in closing plus the 4,200 delta in interest on my $20,000 loan, I will make about $8,000, which is just ballparking a 35 to 40% return on my money.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's what a lot of people get tripped up. How can you loan money at 12 or 13% or whatever and make 35% return on your money?
Right.
And that's why I'm writing a second book, by the way, Access Beats Effort, because you heard the expression, work hard work. Well, people out there working hard and they have nothing to show for it. It works smart. And that's what it's about. It's about working smart. And this is about working smart, is leveraging other people's money. They're leveraging your money, your knowledge of how all this works so they can get their return, and I'm leveraging their money so I can get my return. Sometimes it's called leveraged lending, but that's what it's about. That's how you get those kind of returns on a smaller amount of money.
Yep. And then to kind of compound that, let's say you're doing a 6-month loan, you're able to cleanly recycle and do that twice, that same loan. It doesn't work this way exactly, but you're able to do that same exact loan twice in a year. Now on that money, you've made 16 grand through with that original $20,000 investment, you're getting very close to doubling your money.
Yeah.
Now you go into year 2, you've got 2 chunks of money you can do that with. You can go 20,000 over here or 20,000 over here, possibly with the same investor or the same handful of investors. And then you can see where that quickly compounds over a couple year period, which is exactly what you've done in a couple year period.
Oh yeah, it's like a penny a day and double it for 2 pennies
Yep.
day 2, 4. It's like that. It doesn't seem like a whole lot until you get to like day 20.
Right.
It really, but well, this is the way this is. I've done these loans for 3 or 4 years, and by the way, it doesn't have to be 20,000. You could do 4 loans with 10,000 each
Yep.
in the loans. It's totally up to the lender as to how you want to portion it out, but then you have, I've had up to 30 loans out at one time. So if you're making $800 a month, average, let's say ballparks, let's say $500 a month on 30 loans, that's $15,000 a month. And I can travel to Kenya.
Yeah.
While the loans are out there and the monthly paychecks are coming in. Right now, I don't have that many loans out. I'm pulling back a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's how it multiplies. That's how it magnifies. It just doesn't add a little bit here and there. It kind of, like over the past 3 years, it's kind of just did that.
Yeah. And there's so many things, Chuck, in the real estate world that, there's always a lot of hyperbole in real estate or any business really that, gets touted as the greatest thing, is the next greatest thing or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm a lender myself. We don't do it quite this way. We run a debt fund, but we're doing the same type of loans as Chuck. I know the mechanics of what Chuck is doing. This is, now, again, there is a big learning curve. You have to become an expert in this space because you're dealing with other people's money and other people's livelihoods, really. And it is not passive. Chuck has not done this passively. He mentioned earlier, I don't know of a Richmond networking event that I've been to that Chuck Glover has not been to. He's at everything. And so that, yes, he enjoys it. Yes, you're at a point in your life where you have the space and freedom to do that. But that is work. You're out there networking and trying to build upon what you built. So it's not passive and it's not something you can just jump into without an education. But once you connect the dots and you can wrap your head around how this works and you're educated enough to really manage this appropriately, it truly is 30-40% returns.
And more.
And more, right.
And to say that, Jason, it's quick to say, and you're hitting right on the subject, this is not a get-rich-quick thing.
No.
It takes a lot of time and effort. The idea is you can take a year to learn how to do it, or you can take 3 months to learn how to do it. That's the kicker, is shorten the learning curve. Now it's easier to shorten the learning curve because of the knowledge available. But 6 years ago, I was grinding to find, and Dorsey Ford probably got sick of me calling her and texting her and emailing her all the time to really nail down this technique because there were nothing out there for it.
Yeah.
But the idea is, do whatever, whether it's this or anything else, immerse yourself in the education. Grind, put the time in, drive the miles, and get the education, and then apply it.
Yeah, apply it is the key word over everything you say. I know that's where a lot of your teachings and mindset stuff comes from, applied knowledge and using, leveraging other people's talents, really, because I say it all the time. I in every room I go into, I'm the least educated person in that room, right? But I have surrounded myself, just much like you have, with people that can teach me how to do these things, and people there's not a thing that can come up, Chuck, with the network you've built. There's not one piece of adversity that can come up in this business that you can't pick up the phone and have somebody walk you through how to deal with it, right?
That's why you make connections.
That doesn't happen. Right.
It isn't just learning soaking up other people's knowledge. It's sharing, it's learning. But yes, it's building the connections that you can call someone up and ask for help. Take somebody. And where a lot of people drop the ball is they go to a meeting or 2 meetings and meet some people, and that's it. You follow up with them. You call them back. You email them. You take them out to lunch, take them out for coffee. You pick their brain. You let them get to know you as well as you get to know them on a personal level. It didn't just, okay, for example, if let's say you needed your house painted and your cousin is a painter, chances are you're going to call your cousin. I mean, if you like them, chances are you're going to call your cousin, not just some individual you don't know. Relationships count. So build them. Get out there. I had a guy once, he didn't get a job. He's saying, well, the boss knew this other guy that got the job. He didn't, he was his favorite and all this stuff. And I said, so what you're telling me is it's who you know is important. That's what counts. He said, yeah. And I said, well, who are you out meeting? Crickets.
Right.
The crickets. If you believe that, it's true. Get out there and meet people. You can do it. It's not a closed club.
Yeah.
Get out there and do it.
And specific to private lending, which is the world we're in, where do you, Chuck, because you mentioned it earlier, you connected with every lender you could find. So when you're trying to educate yourself, but now you're in a role where a lot of lenders are connecting with you as that resource to help them get going. Where do you see most private lenders starting out get hung up or get discouraged or just throw in the towel or make mistakes? Like what are some common things you see there?
Some of it has to do with legal paperwork.
Yep.
First of all, understand the terms. Know what a lien is. Know what a HUD statement is. So learn the terms. Read through with the first deal you do, you're going to get this contract from the lawyer. It's going to be a promissory note and a deed of trust. And as boring as they are, read through every word, understand now they're all pretty much very similar, so you don't have to read them all the time, but at least read through one to understand. And that's the kind of dirty work, I guess, that people don't want to do. When you have a question, instead of muddling through it, do just what you said, Jason. Pick up that phone and call. And if you don't have the contacts, who you're going to call? So get out there and get the contacts. And that's where the time comes in, the effort comes in. So somebody just starting out, meet people.
Yeah.
Establish contacts and all the rest. The technique, you can learn that. It'll come into place. It's meeting the people.
Yep. For those that don't know your story, Chuck, again, the story's out there. You've spoken on podcasts, on stages about it. But I want to be clear for those that don't know that story. How many years ago did you start this?
About 6.5 years ago.
If you don't mind sharing.
First learned about this thing.
How old were you at that point, if you don't mind sharing?
70. Well, I'm 77 now.
Okay.
So going on 71, I guess. When I started, I had no background in investing in any form or shape.
This is my point. And that there is no bigger inspiration or crystal ball out there than Chuck Glover when it comes to, I don't care what point you are in your life. You've had a lot of lows and you've had a lot of highs, but you've got to a point where you finally just wrapped your head around a concept, you went all in on it, and it literally changed your life in your 7th decade of life. And that, if you can't find motivation, or if you're out there saying, well, God, no, I'm 50 years old, I can't do this now. I don't know it. I don't understand it. You're sitting here listening to somebody that had that same conversation at 70 years old and took action, applied everything he learned, and here he is 6 years later. The title of his book, that he didn't just make that up. That title literally happened. I mean, you took a little chunk of money and you've turned it into a great revenue stream through hard work, through everything you've talked about. So if you could, Chuck, as we kind of wrap this up, speak to that mindset a little bit. I know this is less of a mindset podcast than my other one, but speak to that mindset that you took to this over the last several years and how it's paid off for you.
Well, the thing about the mindset is you're 70 years old, you got to do something. You can't, you've heard the phrases, can't teach an old dog new trick. It's too late. It takes this, it takes that. None of it's true. It's where it's your decision as to what you decide to do and how hard you decide to pursue it and the avenue you take and who you meet and so on and so forth. The idea is set up. The mindset is absolutely number one essential right there. If you don't have the mindset, if you have the excuse-itis. It was chapter 2 of The Magic of Thinking Big is entitled Excuse-itis. Get rid of that disease. Read that, The Magic of Thinking Big, read chapter 2. But once you get to the point where your mindset just totally overrules, you have a positive mindset that overrules every other thought that you have. That's what it takes. There can be no crack in the armor, and it's not easy to do. It takes constant reading, constant work, constant effort. The Bible is my number one positive thinking, motivational book, and there are so many others out there. Never split the difference. The Magic of Thinking Big, Think and Grow Rich, The Richest Man in Babylon. You could just go on and on. As a Man Thinketh. I See You at the Top by Zig Ziglar. Read everything you can get your hands on. Eliminate newspapers, eliminate TV news. You can say, wow, that's extreme. That's why most people don't make it.
Yep.
That thinking is self-limiting thought. Anytime, never hold a thought that weakens you.
I love it. I've heard you say that. I've heard you say that 100 times. It's my favorite thing you say.
And that doesn't mean everything is Pollyanna and roses. There are tough times, but you think through that. Yes, this is not an easy thing to go through. Well, first of all, don't look at things as hard and easy. It's just a thing to go through. That's it. Let's do it. Develop that mindset.
Yeah, I love that. Never hold a thought that weakens you. I don't remember where I first heard you say that, but that sticks in my head all the time, right? I mean, you have to wrestle with thoughts, and some of those thoughts might suck some energy from you, but holding that thought and leaving it in there and just letting it marinate, that's where it goes south. And I just love that as a overall mindset. Just don't hold a thought that weakens you, that draws energy from you. And I appreciate you sharing that. Chuck, we've mentioned it, like we just scratched the surface around all this, but you're an authority in this space now, and rightfully so, because of what you've done and the experience you've had, even if it's in a short period of time. So you offer resources. You talked about the book. We're going to put the link in the show notes where anybody can go and buy that book. But your teachings, your Zoom teachings and stuff like that, where can we steer people to look further into that and connect with you if they're interested in learning more about this?
It's going to be the same link. My website is massiveachievement.net.
Okay.
So if you click on workshops, it'll take you to the class. The next one is July 14th. It's in the evening. It's like 6:30 in the evening. And if you click on merch, then it'll take you to the book and the t-shirts. But it's the same website, massiveachievement.net.
Great. And then if somebody were to do, let's say they sign up for that July course, but they're not able to attend, do you record it and give them that resource?
Several things recorded. The recordings are made available so nobody will miss a thing. Plus, if somebody signs up for it and isn't able to make it or isn't able to make all of it, because during the class, it's a discussion period. I answer questions and we talk and we go through case studies. We actually go through deals. And if they aren't able to do it live or on the Zoom, they can always call me or email me or text me after the fact with their discussions and their questions. Always happy. The idea is to help other people make money. That's the idea.
I love it. And Chuck, well, for those that are listening, if you're sitting there and you're like, man, I hear what he's saying. I like it. I want to learn more. I know what Chuck charges for these classes. Spend the money. It's worth it. It's not super expensive. You will not, you're going to walk out of that class knowing, oh yeah, this is something I want to pursue, or maybe this isn't for me. So if you're on the fence right now, just hearing the teaser he just gave on this podcast, I encourage you to check out that July class, and we'll have the links below to do it. Chuck, you mentioned and we'll start wrapping things up, but you mentioned you're kind of slowing down a little bit. And I think that's another, you're stepping back a little bit. Another point to hammer on, you've gone from literally knowing nothing about this to 6 years building, getting the revenue up to a point where it can send you to Kenya and all over the world in support of Share the Love. And now you've gotten to a point where you're going to take a step back to enjoy the fruits of this labor. But I think it's important to know it's not a get rich overnight, but it can happen pretty quickly if done the right way and you're living that. So what do you see as the next phase of life for Chuck Glover?
Well, our First of all, all this is deeply rooted in the spiritual aspect of my life, because it's all bathed in prayer. All of this from day one, it's been bathed, not just a prayer for before lunch, bathed in prayer. I'm talking about laying on the floor praying to overcome depression. I'm talking about serious Bible study. So that's one of the first elements. But after this, it's just more traveling. Share the Love, traveling with Share the Love, which is CHAIR, by the way, distributing free wheelchairs in various countries around the world. We're looking to go to Thailand and Panama within the next 12 months. Yeah. And I already have a trip booked for China and Tibet in November. Then next summer in June, I'm going to be going to Scandinavia, Norway. What's up in Scandinavia? Norway, Finland, and Sweden.
Sounds great. My son could tell you. He knows every spot on this earth, you know.
Well, I've got a map, and I'm scratching them all as a cut. But it isn't because of me. God has just blessed. If you do things integrity, honesty, and with the idea of helping other people solve their problems and build their wealth, it just flows. It just comes.
You couldn't have said it better. And for those, we'll drop the Share the Love link as well for folks interested in learning more about that. And all this travel you're doing, it's not just Chuck going on adventures having fun. It's Chuck doing it to go help other people. That also takes him to really neat places. And we're gonna drop your social media links below too, because you just got home from a couple weeks in Kenya. And I was watching some pictures from you and others on the trip. But I want folks to, if nothing else, watch your post upcoming, because you've got thousands of pictures to share, I'm sure. So
they'll be sharing for the next 3 months probably. So
I love it. Chuck, well, as always, man, I can't thank you enough for your time. You're one of the biggest go-givers I've ever met. You know, it's just you give, and thankfully, to the point you just made, the universe and God and everybody involved have allowed you to, all that giving you give, it comes back to you. And I love to see you kind of bathing in that as well. So,
amen.
Yep.
Amen.
Yep. So, Chuck, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time on Dealmaker Catalyst. That wraps up this episode of the Dealmaker Catalyst. If you want to keep learning from elite operators and plug into a national community that lives this stuff every day, check out Dealmaker Catalyst. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's serious about leveling up. And we'll see you on the next Dealmaker Catalyst.